Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. I'm going to walk you through the top 7 chiseling mistakes that students tend to make, and I'm going to show you how to avoid them. Stay with me. I'm Rob Cosman, and welcome to my shop. We make it our job to help you take your woodworking to the next level. If you're new to our channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and don't forget to turn on the notification on your mobile device so you'll know every time we release a new video. Good? All right, back to the bench. A couple of years ago, we did a video entitled Perfect Dovetails on Your First Try. I'll leave a link down below. But we did it after introducing this new method of laying out your dovetails where you use an offset. And it's all explained in there. But what it resulted in was 80% of our students in their first try would come up with a joint like this. This is a student dovetail. This is assembling right from the saw, so there's no pairing. However, we still see a common weakness being with chisels. And if you think about it, this line and this line, this line, this line, and this line are all a direct result of chisel work. This should be a sawn joint right here, but oftentimes that's involved in the chisels as well. And in order to keep everything nice and clean and crisp, you have got to get your chiseling work down to perfection. And it's not that difficult. As long as you have properly prepared and sharpened chisels, it's just a few techniques that are going to help you get it so that when you assemble it, it comes out looking like that. So the first one is not having a deep enough marking gauge line. Now I want you to really come into this real close and see. If you want really good dovetails, everything has to be crisp. Nice and crisp. And I also don't want really heavy gauge lines either. So this is going to be a little bit of a yeah but answer. When you set your marking gauge for whatever it is, obviously the first thing you have to make sure is that this is actually sharp. You should be able to feel how sharp it is. If you can run your finger over that without cutting it, then there's something wrong. It's way too dull and it's just going to crush the fibers. Now, I'm just going to show you a little drawing. If your marking gauge leaves you on a proper line, it's going to look like this. There's the bevel. There's the end of the board. Now, it's always going to be square on the side you're keeping, so this angle is going to be 90 degrees. The bevel side is going to be over here. When you set your chisel in there, if that's a nice sharp gauge line, the chisel automatically goes exactly where you expect it to go. It's going to sink right to the bottom. If, on the other hand, your marking gauge cutter is not sharp, you're going to end up compressing the wood instead. Now, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but you'll get my drift. By compressing the wood like that with a dull cutter, now when you go to set your sharp chisel on there, it could sit in any number of places because there is nothing distinct about the gauge line. So, first and foremost, you have to have a sharp cutter. And when you're using it, obviously the end of your board needs to be, well, it should be, depending on the actual project, it should be square, but it must be straight. Straight meaning from here to here. Because my gauge line is simply going to give me a baseline parallel to this one. I always find it easier to pull than to push. You need lots of reference surface along here so that this doesn't wiggle on you. And you want to concentrate right here. Don't look at the cutter. Concentrate right here so that you keep that tight to the end of the board. And when you make your gauge line, if it is sharp, you should be able to do it with one pass. And now you've got a nice deep line. When you set your chisel in there, it'll fall into place and it gets held. Definite. No guessing whether or not it's sitting where you want it. Now, as I mentioned, you may get in a situation where you're doing a piece of casework and you don't want to have a heavy gauge line that you then have to try to get rid of after the fact. So, if you're worrying about that, what you may have to do is come in and lay your dovetail out first without, I would suggest pencil or something you can erase, without a baseline. I'll do one more. I'm just doing a light line on purpose. Now, let's make this one a little bit darker so that the camera will pick it up. So I know this is going to be waste, and this is going to be waste. I may as well finish it for the sake of the exercise. And this is going to be waste. So if you come in and do that first, then you can come in with your gauge, with your marking gauge, and you can merely put your deep cut right in the waist. And the nice thing about a wheel style is you can actually roll that to advance it. You can see exactly where it makes contact, unlike the old style that had a pin hidden underneath the beam. Once you set it down, you had no idea where the pin was. Now when I would come into this one, I can just roll so that my heavy gauge line is simply between the two marks, so I don't end up having a deep line over here that I then have to try to plane off after I'm done cutting, which sometimes takes a lot more stock removal than you would guess. You're moving off the end, so you can always put a nice deep cut on there. Now you can go ahead. I would come back in here and erase that line so that you're not sawing beyond, but now bring your line right down to that gauge line, and when you're chopping, it's going to be a lot easier. Next mistake often made is, actually it's not a chiseling mistake, it just leads to a chiseling problem. When you remove the waste between the tails or between the pins, if you don't get close enough to the line with your fret saw and you leave this much material, when you put the chisel in the gauge line, any waste on, in this case, the left side is going to put a lot of pressure on the bevel. So as you start to chop, particularly in hardwoods, that force is going to have a tendency to push your chisel below your scribe line. And now you get a divot in there and it's impossible to hide. You want to aim for getting close like this with your fret saw. And if you can't get that close, then at least come in and take a couple of chops right up close to the line. You don't have to be very deep, but now when you set your chisel in the gauge line, there's very little waste pushing on the bevel, and by the time you engage the extra waste, you've already got a good amount of material sitting behind your chisel back, not allowing it to push beyond. Simple cure. But remember, what you want to do is get good the first time and get to the point where you can cut really close to that gauge line. This is quite possibly the biggest mistake, and I would almost say the hardest one to recover from. And it's not, the problem is you don't have a flat bottom or a flat socket between the two pins. So the way we have our students test for it, we like to use a little small steel square, and we set it on there. And if that rocks like this, then obviously that bottom is not flat. Well, the problem is when you go to assemble your joint, it's going to register on that bump before it closes tight against that nice gauge line, on both sides for that matter. So here's the problem with trying to fix it. You've essentially already removed your gauge line, which is where you're going to set your chisel. So now you don't really have a place to register your chisel, and you've got to come in and guessing where you should be, go in there and excavate all of that material. Extremely problematic. When all it takes, now I start from the inside. I've got a little too much material there, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut that in half with just a quick chop of the chisel. I'm going to set my chisel right in the gauge line and make sure that it registers. Now, if you're not sure, but as a way of doing it proper going forward, I always chop this way so that I can see plumb. If I'm chopping like that, I have no idea where plumb is. This way I can see it. Set the chisel in your gauge line if you've got a square or something, just to give you a quick reference so that you know, okay, that's where plumb is. Now, if anything, I'll lean forward just a little bit. Go down about a third of the distance, and then I would finish it from the opposite side. Again, I've got too much material from the fret saw, so a quick chop to eliminate that. Now I'll just do one chop. Register. Again, if you're unsure, put your square in there to give you a point of reference. You can even use your dovetail marker and then lean it back just a little bit, not much, and go ahead and finish the chop. Now, of course, I would normally have done the whole thing, but now when you set your square on there, it sits flat. You can hear it touching on the outside, but it does not rock. That's what you got to have. You want to get that right from the chopping so you don't have to go back and make all those repairs. It takes forever. Now, this next one isn't really a problem, but it is a tip that will help improve your efficiency and get you along your way faster. When I chop the baseline between the pins, I eventually have to go right into this corner. Now, it's not a straight down chop because of the slope of the pin. So what I do is I get that last one, get my chisel in the gauge line, right over tight to the pin, a little bit of weight on the chisel, register it, and then angle it. And the angle that you're trying to achieve is that slope of the pin. Because if you can even come close, you're going to eliminate the step of having to go in and clean all that stuff out of there after the fact. Whereas if you do it right the first time, you've just saved yourself maybe a couple minutes on each socket. So pressure down so it doesn't bounce. One chop to register it, angle it slightly, and then finish the cut. And if you do it right, there's nothing to be removed, and you're that much farther ahead. Okay, I need you to come in really tight and see what I'm talking about. See at the base of the pin where you start to see the wood fractured? Well, as you get better and better at dovetails, you're going to get fussier and fussier and start nitpicking. Well, I'm going to show you how to avoid that. You think I would have avoided it, but that was actually, I made a mistake. So when you're chopping, it's always a two-step process. You're not going to start on this gauge line and go all the way through and end on that gauge line. So you go halfway from one side and then continue or finish it from the other side. Now I said halfway, I'm going to retract that. I prefer to start on the inside. So when I say inside, the joint's going to go together like this. This would be the side that you most readily see. So I'm going to start on the inside. I will come in here. Again, I left too much material. Quick chop. Get right on the gauge line, make sure I can feel it sink, and go down about 1/3 of the distance. If you don't, what will happen, actually I'm going to go a little bit farther so I can show this. Now I'm probably 2/3 of the way down. When you start to chop from the second side, and different woods are going to respond differently, let me just get this line clear. When you start chopping from the face side, at some point, the pressure of the chisel on the wood fiber is going to cause the last little bit of fiber to break. In other words, you're not going to cut clean through all the way. Usually the last little bit snaps off. And when it snaps off, depending on how close it is, it will often take a big chunk of wood. Grab my pencil. It'll take a big chunk of wood out of here. And the closer it is to that front line, the more likely you are when in the cleanup process to start to expose that, and it gets really translucent right here, and you start to see that fractured line like I showed you. Now this wood's actually behaving well, but it's also due in part to the chisel I'm using. But if you want to avoid this, and if you've cut dovetails, you've experienced it, instead of going too far from the first chop, just go 1/3 of the distance from the first chop. Stop right here. That means when you start chopping from the show side, you've got lots of wood supporting your chisel tip. You're going to get down in here before you start to suffer that breakage. But that will preserve the integrity of this amount of material out here, which will ensure that you end up with a nice clean line right along here. I'm going to leave second to the last, should be the most obvious, and that is a sharp chisel. If your chisel's not sharp, the first thing you're going to encounter, you're going to have a hard time finding that gauge line. The next thing you're going to encounter is nothing is going to be precise, and it really muddies up this part. So when I'm chopping this out, this edge right here is going to be part of the finished joint. So where the face or the inside face of the tail comes down and touches the bottom of that socket, that's going to determine how nice and clean this line is. You want that to be nice and sharp. If your chisel's dull, there's a good chance that that's going to actually bend some of that wood right on the point. and it's just not going to give you that nice clean fit. Chisels have to be sharp. We'll leave a link to some tips and videos we did on sharpening your chisels, but the back needs to be flat, nice and flat, so that your chisel will actually go where you aim it, and you have to come in here and polish to the appropriate degree. I go up to 16,000 grit. It doesn't take much longer, but the result is a chisel that is so sharp that it'll pare with very little pressure, requires little effort from you, which gives you lots of control. Got to keep them sharp. So if you come in and look at this, isn't this gross? Big chunks of wood out. When I wouldn't say just getting started, but it was several years ago, in dealing with softer woods. Where I live, we use pine often as a secondary wood. And sometimes you get pine, you can see how fast growing it is. That's the difference. That's the amount of growth that it happened in the spring. That's fast growth. And it's just not very strong. So under the weight of your chisel, instead of cutting, the fibers break like this, and that leaves that big excavated hole. Well, no matter how sharp I got my chisel, it didn't seem to make a difference. So I decided to start playing with the primary bevel. Now the primary bevel on most chisels is going to be 30 or 25 degrees. I prefer 25. What I did is I started changing that, and I would grind it down a few degrees lower, sharpen the chisel, and try it. When I got down to 17 degrees, now 17 degrees is the angle that is created right in here. What it really does, it stretches out the bevel. When I got down to 17 degrees, what I discovered was that I could go through some of the softest wood, and it would leave a nice, clean surface with no tear out, no fracture, no big chunks of wood coming out. Now, the challenge is you can't use that on a very hard wood, only on softwoods. So my advice has always been, if you're going to deal with a lot of softwoods, and by that I mean pine, aspen, alder, sometimes even poplar, then you want to have a couple of chisels, 1/4 I think is all you really need, and you reserve those just for dealing with those woods. You put this into hardwood, that edge is not going to stand up. There's not enough metal out there. No matter how good your chisel is, there's just not enough metal. Save them for your softer woods, and you'll be glad you did. You get nice, clean sockets. It's fantastic. I hope these help, and you'll end up with fantastic dovetails. If you enjoy my method of work and like my style of teaching, click on any one of these videos to help take your woodworking to the next level. I've always said, better tools make the job so much easier. If you click on the plane and chisel icon below, it'll take you to our site and introduce you to all the tools that we actually manufacture right here in our shop. It'll also give you information on our in-person and online workshops.